Hello everyone, I hope you're going well. Today I will explain you how to actually finally crush, the London system. And the reason why I will actually talk about it is because I already made a video about this topic, but everyone was like, yeah, but it's not a content for beginners, it's more for intermediate players, etc., etc. So today I will just explain you what is the point of the London system with the white pieces in order to better crush it with the black pieces. So surprisingly, we will flip the board and now we will actually start. So d4. Okay, knight f3. Let's say d5, d4, knight f6, and bishop f4. And once white gets a position like that, white is actually slightly better thanks to the control on the e5 square. And even though we might actually get the same with the black pieces, we're still down a tempo, and it might be a problem in some moves. For example, c4, then queen b3, and some pressure will actually arrive sooner or earlier. So that is why I would actually recommend you with the black pieces to let's just play the main line to play with d6 because now no more control is possible on the e5 square. If one day white manages to put a knight there, we can just take it. Now we will go for g6, but why g6? Because it's actually impossible to bring the bishop out on this diagonal because of the e7 and d6 pawn. So g6 prepares to put this bishop on this long diagonal. e3, bishop g7. Let's say white goes for the classical London system setup. There is already a problem with the bishop on d3, but we will see that in a second. Castles, castles. And now you can either play knight d7 to play for some e5, for example, knight bd2, rook e8. And at some point, you can actually play e5, which will attack the bishop. And thanks to the rook, we have a better control of the center. We first put the rook there to play e5, because after pawn takes, and bishop goes back, we have the pawn move e4, which is a fork winning a piece, because the pawn is defended 2 times. So that is not possible. So that is why the bishop should always go on e2 instead, so that e5 is never a problem. And let's say we reach the same position, knight d2 or c3 or c4, it doesn't really matter. c4 is a new London. This is what I'm recommending you. Black can actually try to go for knight h5, which is chasing the bishop away. And now if bishop g3, black can just take it and go e5, opening up this huge diagonal. And there is nothing white can really do about it. We have the bishop pair, so we do have a long-term way to put pressure on the position. We won't take. We will probably just play queen e7, followed by pushing, or if we take, it's only if we can already play c5 or queen b6, putting pressure on this huge and long diagonal. So, and why we take? Because if we don't take, then the knight actually doesn't make any sense here. And why e5? Because if you play something like, let's say, c6 or c5, which is still possible, at some point, okay, probably not d5, but like d5, e4 might be a problem someday, and that is not something we want to see. And it's just that e5 makes more sense since we can already bring the queen out. So c5 is probably still playable, to be honest, but e5 is better. So that is why we also have this choice of playing. And once there is no more bishop on f4, the position is very simple to play. And that is why I would actually say that the best way for white to play the London system nowadays is to first start with that move, so that if d6 happens, we won't have to go bishop f4, but we can play e3, which is the I forgot the name of this line, but basically we will play b3, bishop b2 to play on this long diagonal. It's still playable, it's just that at some point white will have to go for some h3, so that if one day we reach that thing, the bishop is able to jump back on h2. And once we have this position, this one, we can still go for c5. If pawn takes, we have queen a5, and we will get the pawn back. And if you are interested, you can also analyze this line, which is sacrificing in exchange for white. And I played that position in France, in Aix-en-Provence, and I basically got demolished with the black pieces. But okay, it wasn't a good tournament either. So it still exists, but you have to eventually look at some plans with the black pieces. And let's say the knight goes away, trying to put pressure on on this guy. You can just go back, and if takes, you take back. Then b6, bishop b7, and if bishop f3, then it doesn't matter. You just play queen b6, preparing to play knight there, or e6. It doesn't really matter, or knight c6. It's whatever you want to. And if you're really not a fan of that, you don't even have to go for c5. You can start with knight f6 and then go for c5, or knight bd7 and then c5. It doesn't really matter, or rook e8, e5. So basically you have billions of available plans. You already understand why all these plans are interesting. We want to open up this diagonal just to make this, this bishop stronger. Now you just have to decide what you want to go for. Thank you very much for everything. Subscribe to the channel. Go in the description. Go in the description if you want to know how to prepare properly for your future chess tournaments. My book will be released, I think today. Yeah, today. And you can also, of course, go check out my most recent uploads on the London system and some other psychological things. So hopefully see you in the future. Take care.